On August 15, 1947, we attained independence. Alongside, the great ancient land of Bharat was partitioned on communal lines. On the one hand, when the Congress leadership and the Muslim leadership were preparing themselves for independence and taking over the rulership, British colonialists led by Lord Mountbatten were trying to execute the India's Independence Act hurriedly. Many parts of Akhand Bharat were witnessing riots, mayhems, murders and inhuman crimes against women. Gandhiji was taking tours in eastern parts of Bharat. The second Sarsangh Chalak of Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh, Shri Golwalkar Gurji, was travelling in the western part, which constitute Pakistan now. RSS was running many refugee camps. Muslim League leaders were busy not just preparing for Pakistan, but also instigating communal frenzy mobs on the ground. A book by researcher and author Shri Prashant Pol tried to put together developments of this fortnight of August 1947 in his book, which is one of the best sellers, called Wo 15 Din, which is translated as Those 15 Days. This year, Organiser is taking you through the developments of those 15 days, going through the most happening 15 days towards Bharat's independence alongside the communal partition will provide new insights to the viewers and inspire them to take up research on various aspects of conversations, communications and negotiations, as well as the kind of communal frenzy things happening on the ground about India's independence and the great partition of this land. August 8, 1947. It was Friday. The extra month, that is called Adhik Mas, fell in Shravan that year. Accordingly, it was Shashti, the 6th day. Gandhiji's train was approaching Patna city. It was 5:45 am. The sun was about to rise. A pinkish hue spread on the slightly cloudy sky looked enchanting through the window near Gandhiji. A pleasant, cool breeze was blowing in from the window of the carriage. Even though black particles of coal were entering with the breeze, the overall atmosphere was pleasant and exciting. However, for some unknown reasons, Gandhiji was not feeling quite animated. This did not happen often. The mind was always upbeat, howsoever adverse conditions were. Gandhiji remembered just 5 years ago, the British government had arrested him and Jawaharlal. Gandhiji had decided to launch a big movement against the British rule after the failure of the Cripps mission. The meeting of All India Congress Committee regarding it was organized in Mumbai. In that meeting, held in the evening on August 8, 1942, Gandhiji had appealed the Britishers, quit India, and he and others were arrested by the end of the meeting. Exactly 5 years ago on the same day. Freedom was not on the horizon that day, yet the enthusiasm was there. Today, it was certain that we would become independent in a week. Still, the heart refused to cheer up. What Gandhiji had seen in the last 2-3 days in the War refugee camp and Lahore made him uncomfortable. He failed to understand, why are the Hindus running away leaving their homes and properties behind. Muslims wanted Pakistan and they got it. Why would they do anything now? There was no need for Hindus to flee. I should do whatever I said in Lahore. Let us spend the rest of our lives in the newly formed Pakistan. These thoughts made Gandhiji feel better. The train was entering Patna station. A large number of people were gathered to welcome him. They were hailing him. However, who knew why? Gandhiji did not feel thrilled at those slogans. As Gandhiji's train entered Patna station, it was 6 o'clock in the morning in Nizam's Hyderabad. The heat could be felt in the Osmania University campus even in the early morning as there was no rain. The atmosphere in the hostel of the university situated in Ambarpet was tense though. The university had been established about 40 years ago, in the year 1918 to be precise. It was established by Hyderabad's Nawab Mir Osman Ali Khan. The influence of Urdu and Muslim culture was perceptible since the beginning. However, the atmosphere in the university had been spoiled since the last few days. The Nizam had declared that he would not merge Hyderabad with India, and inspired by him, the Razakars and Muslim goons had started threatening the Hindu boys in the university. Hindu girls, already few in numbers, had stopped entering the university since the previous month. However, the boys staying in the hostel couldn't do this. Where would they go? In the meantime, the boys in the hostel came to know that Muslim boys had collected arms like sticks, batons, pistols and guns in the hostel. These arms were meant to be used for driving away the Hindu boys from the university. Therefore, Hindu boys in the hostels could not sleep that night. They feared that they would be attacked at night and forced to flee from the university in the darkness of the night. But luckily, that night was survived. That day though, Hindu boys were not mentally prepared to stop. All were unanimously thought that it was better to run away in the morning when everything lay deserted. So about 300 frightened boys left the Osmania University campus from the Hindu wing of the university hostel. Savarkar Sadan at Dadar, Mumbai. It was bustling with activity. Tatayarao Savarkar, as he was called, was going to Delhi for the next few days, and that too by aeroplane. This was Tatayarao Savarkar's first journey by plane. However, he did not feel even a slight bit of excitement at this. He felt quite sad. He could not digest the concept of divided Hindustan. He had devoted his entire life to chasing away the British to establish an undivided Hindustan. And therefore, Tatayarao was extremely agitated at the pitiable, weak and the helpless leadership's acceptance of partition. Moreover, news reports were pouring in from the east and the west. The news was about the massacres of Hindus and Sikhs. The displaced people were entering India in millions. All this was simply horrible. Therefore, in order to discuss this situation, an urgent national meeting of the Hindu Mahasabha was called in Delhi the next day. The top Hindu leaders of the country were to congregate for the meeting in Delhi. Tatayarao Savarkar hoped to see some benefits to accrue from this journey. The flight was at 11 o'clock. The distance from Dadar to Juhu was not much, so he had still some time to leave. Akola is a big city adjacent to Berar, province of Nizam, the hub of cotton. a city of affluence derived through land revenue collected from a vast production of cotton. There was quite some activity in Akola since the previous day. The freedom was at the threshold and the country was to become free within a week. Then what and how would be the plight of Marathi-speaking population in this independent country? How would be the formation of the Marathi-speaking provinces or territories? Eminent leaders from Western Maharashtra and Vidarbha were expected to gather to discuss and decide on this issue. In this struggle of Marathi speakers, the formula suggested by Shri Dhananjay Rao Gadgil was being discussed since the previous day. Punjab Rao Deshmukh, Brijlal Biyani, Sheshrao Wankhede, Bapuji Ane were the local hosts. Besides them, Shankarrao Dev, Pandarnath Patil, Poonam Chand Raka, Shriman Narayan Agrawal, Ramrao Deshmukh, D.V. Gokhale, Gopal Rao Khedkar, D.W. Poddar, Premila Taib Oak, G.T. Matkholkar, G.R. Kulkarni were the leaders participating in this meeting. A total of 16 leaders had come together to Akola to determine the future of Marathi speakers. Intense discussion had taken place that day. The leaders from Vidarbha region wanted a separate Vidarbha state, while leaders from Western Maharashtra were eyeing a united Maharashtra. An amicable solution that would appeal to all had to be found through discussions. It's impossible to happen by that evening. In all this conundrum, a small incident took place. A Marathi school was being inaugurated in a small village named Teraye in the Sangameshwar Taluka of Ratnagiri district of the Konkan region in Maharashtra. At 11 o'clock in the morning, villages were preparing to start the school by offering prayers to the statue of Saraswati. It was about 12:30 p.m. in Delhi. The sun was spewing fire from the sky. Despite it being the month of August, there was not much rain. The elegant black-colored car belonging to Jodhpur state stopped in the white porch of Viceroy's house. A muscular gateman, adorned with a strong headgear, opened the door of the carriage with respect. Kadambi Sheshachar Venkatachar disembarked from the car with agility. He was the Dewan, Prime Minister of the Maharaja of Jodhpur. Known as C.S. Venkatachar, this gentleman hailed from Bangalore. He was the Kannada speaker, having passed the Indian Civil Services examination. Highly intelligent, and all the decisions pertaining to Jodhpur state were taken with his consultation. And therefore, Lord Mountbatten has invited Venkatachar for lunch in the spacious palace which was spread over 400 acres. The lunch was a highly formal affair. Since a big wealthy state like Jodhpur had always stood by the British, Venkatachar was accorded full respect as the representative of that state. The purpose of Lord Mountbatten to invite him for lunch was clear. He wanted the merger of Jodhpur state as early as possible. He did not want these minor troubles left before handing over the control of India. During the political discussion that followed the lunch, Venkatachar made it clear that Jodhpur state was ready to merge with India. This was very good news. For the past few days, Jinnah had been presenting all sorts of inducements to Jodhpur to incite it to merge with Pakistan. Both the Nawab of Bhopal and his advisor Jafarullah Khan were meeting princes of Jodhpur, Kutch, Udaipur and Baroda states in a bid to entice them to merge with Pakistan. Jinnah had conveyed to the young prince of Jodhpur through the Nawab of Bhopal that he would be granted the following incentives even if he declared his state independent on August 15th. And those proposals were: that Jodhpur would have the right to all the facilities of Karachi harbour. Arms would be supplied to Jodhpur state by Pakistan. Jodhpur would have full right on the Jodhpur-Hyderabad railway line. Full grains would be made available by Pakistan for drought-affected areas of Jodhpur. Of course, Diwan Venkatachar knew the hollowness of all these promises, and which was why he convinced the Maharaja to merge into India. A serious crisis was thus averted. Hyderabad of Deccan, the capital of Nizam. The atmosphere in the city was tense since morning. The Razakars were furious that 300 Hindu boys had managed to flee from the Osmania University hostel. Attacks on Hindu traders had started at various places in the city. News arriving from Warangal were worrisome. There was stone pelting on houses of Hindu leaders in entire Warangal district. Shops of Hindus being looted and torched. Therefore, Hindu traders in the city had gathered together at the house of a trader in Hyderabad. They had drafted out a following telegram to send to Viceroy Lord Mountbatten and Jawaharlal Nehru. The telegram says, and I quote, "For more than a month, Muslim goons, military and police have sprayed a reign of terror, loot, arson and murder here. There is no protection to non-Muslims' life, property and honor. Non-Muslims are forcibly deprived of and penalized even for seeking highest primary right of self-defense, while Muslims are openly allowed or even supplied with arms. The police act as silent spectators when and where the Muslims are strong. The police become active and shoot mercilessly when Hindus gather in self-defense." Unquote. Hindus were not safe even in Hyderabad of the Nizam, despite being at the heart of the country. No one was there to protect them. This was the first air journey undertaken by Tatya Savarkar from Mumbai to Delhi. 4 workers of Hindu Mahasabha accompanied him. The plane landed at Wellington Airport at about 2:30 p.m. A large number of Hindu Mahasabha workers had gathered outside the airport. Slogans of Veer Savarkar ki Jai, Vande Mataram resonated in the air. Tatya Rao moved towards exit while accepting garlands from workers. He sat in the car meant for him. The convoy of other cars and motorbikes began moving towards the Hindu Mahasabha Bhavan on Mandir Marg. While it was 3 o'clock in the afternoon of India, it was 10:30 a.m. in faraway London. Sikh leaders had started to gather at Shepherd Bush Gurudwara in London's central area. These Sikhs, who had been living in England since long, were perturbed at the events taking place in India. Muslim groups had kidnapped someone's sister who was living in West Punjab, while someone's relatives had been sliced into pieces on a busy road. Moreover, the demarcation of the line of partition was yet to be decided. The Sikhs in England were really feeling the pain of Punjab's partition. The only remedy for this was to merge the entire Punjab province into India and carry out exchange of population. However, both Gandhiji and Nehru were adamant on the exchange of population. Nehru had appealed to the Sikh community to have trust in the border commission. But the Sikh community in Britain was enraged at all these events. That was why the Sikh leaders in England had gathered together and submitted a memorandum to Prime Minister Attlee at 10 Downing Street, urging him to stop killing of innocent Sikhs and merge the Punjab province with India instead of dividing it. London was feeling the heat. The delegation of Sikh elders marched to Downing Street to meet Attlee exact at 11:30 a.m. The afternoon of August was in its prime in southeastern part of Punjab. Even though it was month of Sawan, there was no signs of rain. A few drops of rain had sprinkled a few days ago, but that was it. The soil in Firozpur, Faridkot, Muksar, Bhatinda, Moga was started showing cracks. The water of the wells had dried. Trees were dying. Cattle were losing life. In addition, hordes of Hindu and Sikh refugees were arriving from West and North Punjab after having lost everything. Their dear ones and honor as well was lost. At whose fault was all this happening? That was the question that perturbed the entire population of Punjab. While Tatya Savarkar's flight was still in air, atrocities of Razakars were in full swing in Hyderabad and Warangal of Nizam. The Diwan of Jodhpur and Lord Mountbatten were finishing their lunch in the Viceroy House at Delhi. Gandhiji was interacting with the students at Patna University in the university's auditorium. Students were somewhat aggressive and angry. Some local Congress leaders were seated among them and were trying to calm the students. Gandhiji was repeating slowly what he had told in the prayer meeting in the morning. Celebrate the Independence Day on August 15th with a fast. Spin yarn on the charkha on that day. Keep the area clean. The white rulers in South Africa have become hysteric. They are treating Indians with hate. They must be condemned at the global level. This was the message of Gandhiji to the students. The students had gathered in the hope of Gandhiji speaking about the partition and that the country would be free soon. But they were, in a way, disappointed. In Bengal, riots had erupted in Calcutta. It would be audacious to call them riots because it was literally attacks one-sided. There was not much resistance. Muslim goons were furiously attacking Hindu localities. Hindus in Calcutta remembered the Direct Action Day which had taken place exactly a year ago. On August 14, 1946, Muslim League followers made Hindus' blood flow in the pools of the streets of Calcutta. Now after 1 year, the same situation seemed to be returning. In old Calcutta, police officers stood in a file to stop the Muslim community from marching to attack Hindu shops. Country-made bombs were thrown on these officers. Senior police officers like Deputy Police Commissioner H.S. Ghosh, Chaudhary and F.M. German were seriously injured and escaped narrowly. The attacks, however, left 6 Hindus dead and 60 seriously injured. In Bengal's Chief Minister Surawardi's reign, let alone arresting the rioters, signs showed that they were to be felicitated. It remains doubtful whether the newly appointed governor, Chakravarti Rajagopalachari, would look into this matter urgently and seriously. August 8th was about to end. Calcutta was still burning. Attacks on Hindu homes and shops were continuing unabated in Hyderabad, Warangal and other villages. Leaders across the country were holding consultations with Swatantraveer Savarkar at Hindu Mahasabha Bhavan in Delhi. Elsewhere, the leaders from Vidarbha and Western Maharashtra had signed the Akola Pact at Akola city in Varad. According to the pact, United Maharashtra will have 2 sub-regions, Western Maharashtra and Mahavidarbha. Both these 2 sub-regions were given separate legislative bodies, cabinets and high courts. However, it was agreed that this entire province would have 1 governor and 1 public service commission. Therefore, as the night advanced, Marathi leaders were engaged in having dinner. In his temporary residence at Karachi, Barrister Jinnah just completed a speech to be delivered in the assembly on August 11th. It was his time to sleep now. Gandhiji was travelling in the train bound for Calcutta. There was a mild drizzle outside. Gandhiji's carriage was leaking at a couple of spots. Manu had just closed the window because the breeze from outside had become too cool. The lamp in the study room of Viceroy House in Delhi was still burning. Lord Mountbatten was furnishing the day's report to the Secretary of India in London. He usually gave dictation. That day, however, he could not find time for that. The next day, his secretary was expected to get it typed to send it to London. The Friday of August 8th was about to end. A vast majority of the population of United India was still in the waking state. Major parts of Sindh, the hilly parts of Peshawar, Punjab, some parts of Bengal and the Nizam could not sleep at all. Exactly the next Friday morning, this undivided India was to be torn into three pieces to allow two countries to come into existence. This was August 8, 1947.